So, good morning, everybody. Oh, hold on. Top Gun's coming in. Hold on. Let's go. Get him in. Cindy's, everybody's jumping on. Now we'll start. Good morning, everybody. It is 11:03 a.m. on Monday, May 11th, 2026. This is the periodic FFLGuard webinar that we hold almost every month. I am Chris Chiafullo, National Coordinating Counsel, coming to you from Florida, where I am slowly migrating to be a resident. And sitting right outside on my back porch is brother Bryan. We had a good night last night. Also joining us from the Outer Banks, Michael Bouchard. From his home in Delaware, I see Michael Fronczak. From her home in Austin, Texas, or thereabouts. What is it? Round Rock? What is it exactly? Round Rock.
Round Rock.
Mm-hmm. Round Rock, Texas. Ms. Alexis Tunell. Who's playing the part of Trent Yeager today? Where is that? I can't see.
Bryan.
Right here. Bryan and Aaron.
Trent Yeager has never looked so good. You can let him know I said that. Interesting time in life for us all. Very, very fluid, ever-changing. Probably in the 20 some odd years that I've been doing this, 28 years, I've never seen so much change occurring all at once. For those of you who don't know, Rob Sakata was officially sworn in last week. And at the same time, you probably got a number of very fancy notifications that Alexis spits out for us and makes us look very professional on all the changes that are coming our way. And those changes are not immediate. There's 34 of them. I won't list them all, but I'm sure that one of my band of merry men will address them. Or men and women. I'm sorry, Alexis. But to that end, the comment period is open for all of them. They don't just summarily go into effect. There has to be some time for everyone to make a comment. And so we are encouraging folks, if you want us to help you get your comments seen, to let us know what you think. I also know we have put our hands on a copy of the proposed new 4473 that will be coming down the pipe. And I'm sure that I don't think that's supposed to be circulated, Alexis. I don't know what the story is with that. It is or it isn't.
It can be circulated. It's publicly posted now.
Okay, so they did decide to. Yeah, they were asking for a comment, but they weren't going to show you what the new 4473 looked like. Hard to comment on that if we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So we have a copy of that. We can also circulate where that could be found online. You may want to just pop it in the chat for now.
I will.
So yeah, lots of fun things going on here. Why don't we start with Mike Fronczak? I'm sure you have a long list of things you want to discuss. Have at it, Haas.
Very good. Oh, I like that name. I remember growing up, my father, many men used the name Haas. Everybody was Haas to them. Come on, Haas. You don't hear that too often.
Have at it, Haas. Yeah, that's my one of my favorite movies is Open Range with Kevin Costner. And he's with, what's the guy's name that was Duvall? He was in The Godfather. That's a great modern day Western if anybody ever wants to watch it. And that's where that's prominent. Have at it, Haas.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, perhaps if you just grew up
can be used.
Not in New York.
Well, that's true. See, I have to watch Westerns.
Everybody's Haas.
Yeah, see, that's not my thing, but now it is. Now I'm moving to Florida. I'm migrating south. I got to pick up more of the vernacular. So, all right, go. Michael,
Sounds
have
good.
at it, Michael.
Yes, as Chris has mentioned, and Alexis has posted on her e-blast, there was 34 notices signed by on April 29th. That is, and remember they were put into two different categories. There's like 5 categories. They're in repeal, modernize, reduce burden, clarify, and align. I'm going to talk about 3 of those today. The first 3, the repeal, modernize, and reduce burden. Briefly on each one. There's a lot to them sometimes. I'll try to give you some insight on them, but there's a lot to it, especially the 4473. There's a lot more to it. And as you'll see when Alexis posts that, it's a different looking form altogether, different altogether. So it'll get some time to get used to, not just you, but your customers too, who are used to seeing the same old 4473 for years, except for the people like me who can remember the one-page form that basically just said, if you checked is known to me, the gun was out the door. There was no, you didn't have to verify anything then.
To be fair,
no background check,
seen
nothing.
that.
So
I have seen that, Mike. To be fair, I have seen the known to me version, which is great. No, I know this guy. Take a gun.
yes, exactly right. So just so you know, the rulemaking process is not new. It's there. It's what ATF utilizes to implement changing some of the regulations. However, on this one, there was 6 final rules here. However, 5 of them pertain to firearms. 1 of them doesn't pertain to you. That's explosives. So, and one of those 34 rules, that's one of those I think there's 2 explosive ones in the 34. But there was 5 final rules. Now, what that means is basically the final rule means they contain there's limited exceptions. So the final rule is basically just technical in nature. And that's why there's no substantive changes to the regulations at all. And those should be fairly quick because they don't expect a lot of comments on those 5. They expect there to be very few comments. So once those comments come in, they don't have to really respond to anything. They'll just implement that regulation right away. So those 5 should be pretty quick, as opposed to the other ones that are the notice of proposed rulemaking, which are usually 30 or 60-day comment period. Then they'll have to respond to each comment that comes in, with the exception of the ones who get vulgar and say, FATF or the hell with you, things like that. They don't have to respond to those. So, and some of these, like the 4473, could be lengthy in the amount of responses. And that's what takes some time too, because they have to respond to those. So keep that in mind too. It's why it might be a little bit longer than the other ones. All depends on the number of comments they receive. But I think they'll receive a ton of comments on that 4473 one. So with that, let's get started with the repeal. The repeal basically has there's 4 items in the repeal section, and basically the first one is a simple one, removing the criteria for firearms with braces. What they're doing is fairly simple. They're removing that language pertaining to the firearms equipped with stabilizing braces. Basically, ATF should never have put that into the NFA category, and that's why they're strictly going to remove that from that language in the regulation. And that's a hope that'll go quickly too. But I'm sure there'll be some comments on that also, that that should not be removed. That should be an NFA firearm, but that's just going to be removing that because a lot of courts have already ruled against that also, as everyone knows. So hopefully that goes quick. We'll see. The second one is revising the definition of engage in a business as a dealer. So they want to go back to the definition that came out as part of the BSCA, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And to me, what that basically does is it did change it still has the repetitive purchases and the repetitive sales. But to me, the key item in that one was, there's a couple ones. This started back in like the mid 2000s when ATF started talking about dealers who go out of business or have and continue. They go out of business or get the license, but they continue to sell guns. All right, they continue to sell firearms and to the public or whoever. So it has to mainly deal with them selling firearms after being revoked or going out of business. So they're basically saying you're continuing to sell If you continue to sell, then you are engaged in a business deal still and need a license. So you could be, if you continue to do that, they may give you a warning, they may not give you a warning that you need a license, or they can charge you with dealing without a license. So keep that in mind if anyone plans on going out of business soon or has to go out of business at any time, that if you continue to sell those firearms by yourself, that you may be getting looked at very closely. But going back, so you look at and we could actually probably even put that in there, Alexis, that be it the bipartisan one, and then there again, so they can see that in one of the e-blasts. But also, next one, revising the machine gun definition response to the Supreme Court decision. That has to do with the bump stocks, pretty much, and that's just going to revise that whole thing. That basically, that definition, revising it, bump stocks is not a machine gun. So that's a final rule. I don't expect many comments on that. That's one of those final rules. So that should go into effect pretty quickly. So not taking into account the bump stock. Easy one, which this might have been a final rule. Gun Safety Act notice that you don't have to now put that up in your business as a something that's required by regulation. They want to remove that altogether so that you don't have to post that in your business premise. So that's an easy one. But
it's not a final
again,
rule.
You may have some people come out and say, no, we want that still enacted and we want that still there. So we'll see if there's any comments on that also. Switching over now to the modernized one. Basically, there's five notices in there, 4 notices and one final notice. That's the shorter one. First one is the 4473. So there's a lot of, again, it's a new form looking all together, but there's a lot of things within there that then their goal here is they want to utilize electronic forms. They're pushing more FFLs to utilize electronic forms. So if you're on that fringe, do it. Life might be easier for you. It might be easier for you for not having to review the forms as closely. You still got to review them, but you take it helps eyes who to conduct that inspection a lot quicker, knowing they don't have to rely on looking at the forms as closely as somebody who does the manual forms. So they're going to hopefully be able to utilize a lot of auto population, i.e. driver's license information to auto populate it. Also, possibly, one thing to take into account is a lot of states now, like Texas, is going to the digital hunting license document. So this would allow you to possibly auto-populate that document with the 4473 and not have to bring in a printout of it. So another little area there. And also focuses on digital record attachments, so like that. So I got ahead of myself there, but remember that. But also, here's a couple other ones. They want to remove the new form, removing the county on there. And there's still some talk about removing that. It's on the form, but they're still talking that ruling about removing the resides in city limits one as a possibility. So to me, if they're removing county, you might as well remove that also, because I don't think they really get what they need to on that form, but we'll see. Another big one I thought in there was the amending the ID document with non-government documentation, meaning it doesn't just have to be if you want to establish your residence as your address. It just doesn't have to be a government document. It could be, as they're proposing, leases. It could be any kind of utility bill also. So that's pretty big right there for people, especially if you have somebody who resides in another state or even the military. So it helps people out with not having to, or don't even have a driver's license, put it that way. You may have something else, may have a photo of ID of something of yourself, but they want to relieve the burden on the buyer here and on you, make it easier for you too. So it could be, we might see it'd be your ability to accept leases or any kind of utility bill with the 4473. So with that, I mean, there's a lot more. I don't want to get into anything more than that. Unless Alexis, you want to chime in on this one while we're on it, if you have anything else you want to say about the 4473.
Yeah, the big thing to know is that this is for 60-day comment. So comments are due no later than July the 7th. So I encourage everyone to take a look, give feedback. Honestly, if you can propose a solution versus just saying, hey, this is wrong, I think ATF is genuinely looking for feedback from industry about what would make it practical, etc. So if you have questions or comments about how to make a comment, don't be shy. Definitely reach out. FFLGuard is here to help you with all of that. But again, ATF is genuinely interested in hearing, if it doesn't work, what would work.
And one thing I just realized as Alexis was talking, I wanted to mention that the 30-day next period, they want to increase that to 2 months. So not just 30 days from the date of sale, but a 2-month period. They're trying to make it simple, 2-month period. So that's big because they're seeing a lot of FFLs probably within that 31st, 32nd, 33rd day transferring firearms. So they think it may help FFLs and buyers both to be able to increase that transfer the eligibility amount of time for the next check from 30 days to 2 months. So that's kind of interesting. So that one I don't think will be a problem. I think that one will go through.
And I think as well that they're proposing to better define how those days are counted.
Yes.
So essentially, June 1st to August 1st.
Yep.
Right, to give you a very strict definition, because that's one of the things that's very difficult. Now then, keep in mind, a state may still have their own regulation around that. So as far as, does it impact everyone? Not necessarily. But again, to standardize those time limits and things like that, I really see, regardless of whether they move it from 30 days to 60 days, whatever, but to really better define how to calculate those times would be great for the industry.
Yep. Okay, so read that proposed notice on there. It's a lot, but make sure you take time. That's definitely. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I was just going to say most of them are not final rules. Like Mike said, there were only a couple. The one of them worth noting though is the easy check. It's still not in effect. So again, just to know what the effective date for that is, if nobody's aware, basically that you no longer have to have that signed copy of the license before transacting, that you can use FFL Easy Check in lieu of, validate the license, etc. ATF intentionally did not say how you would prove up that you've done that. So I think that, FFLGuard will come together, we can talk, and once we get some information, feedback, we can talk about what we think best practices are for that. So be on the lookout for that. But ATF did not state intentionally exactly how they would want that to be proven. So to give the industry room to make those decisions, software providers to make those decisions, et cetera. So again, reducing the burden.
Yeah, they want your feedback. That's why, especially the software providers on that one. So I don't have to go over that one. Thank you. Firearms retention period is another NPRM, and basically that's just what they want to increase that, take it away from indefinitely to bring it back into either a 20-year period or a 30-year period. So that's what they're looking for answers on if you want a 20-year or 30-year. I would just hopefully go back to 20 years. That's what everybody was used to. They want to take it away from the indefinite period of time as it is right now, bring it back either a 20 or 30-year period. Another item within that modernized category is firearms electric record keeping. That's another NPRM. Basically, they want to change the regulation on 478.130. They want to, and it talks about, they put it, they talk auto-populating the data on the 4473. They want to eliminate the number of, when ATF says a certain type of a dealer who has a certain amount of sales, they specify it have to have so many terminals available for ATF when they come in for inspection. They want to eliminate that down to one terminal, but also keep the possibility of having additional just in case ATF has a lot of people come out for an inspection. Again, talking about another one, data integrity and audit trails, making sure that you retain those areas for error corrections, so they can see that also still. Storage of electronic records, the cloud-based things, data backup systems that goes into that. And it also talks about, it's an interesting one, it talks about the temporary unavailability of the electronic record keeping system. What it says in there is you have to use paper for 10 days or fewer, for 10 or fewer calendar days if it's unavailable. So it only says 10 or fewer calendar days. So it's kind of interesting where they came up with the 10, I don't know. But that's a good one, because sometimes, basically if you have hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever, power goes out for storms, then you may be out of business for a certain period of time. But they specify here 10 days. So it's kind of interesting that, but now
Mike, you cut out.
utilize
You cut out.
electronic record keeping. Did I go out?
Yeah, you
hear
went
me?
out when it said 10 days after
Oh, okay.
10 days.
Okay. So 10 days, it talks about how easier it is for you now to go back, to go start electronic keeping systems. You don't have to worry about probably contacting ATF and doing that in the future. Alexis mentioned the electronic easy check system. We got that. And they talked about another one, the last one in this category is revising. Some people were interested in this, revising the non-over-the-counter firearms transaction requirements. The main thing that they're looking at here is, again, it had to be somebody in state, and they had to have a qualifying state perimeter license that is recognized as a NICS alternative. So basically, if you're in state and you had that, you could do the non-over-the-counter transfer. What this ruling now wants to do is allowing the sales to in-state residents, meaning the same state in which the FFL business premise is located, when the FFL can verify or buyers ID remotely. The thing here is there's a lot of now with the driver's license identification that they can do this remotely. This is going to have a lot of pushback, I believe, because one, how does somebody know that they're getting a false ID? How can you verify that? I don't know if you can do that. I'm not sure. So this will be interesting to see how this one plays out. But that's basically the bottom line for this one. They want to allow additional sales to in-state residents who just have to prove that they have through an electronic document, not just for the qualifying state permit licenses as an alternate, basically a concealed carry permit. So recognized by NIC. So keep that in mind if you look at that one. That's an interesting one. I know some people were interested in that. They're probably hoping it's going to be from across the country, but no, it's still just in state. It's not across state lines. Last one to talk about is reducing burden. One that a lot of people may be interested in is the interstate transport and temporary export of National Firearms Act weapons. Basically, this allows on a short-term basis, they'd say short-term, 365 days or fewer, would no longer be required to submit the notice to ATF for that. And that, of course, is the 5320.20. So that's a big change, that you don't have to submit that if it's less than a year. If you're taking that to, say you're taking it to, Chris is taking a machine gun that he owns in New York to Florida for 6 months. Okay.
Yes, all those New York machine guns, that you're allowed to have there.
Bouchard may want to take his arsenal to somewhere in Florida for 6 to 8 months, and there you go. He's got that ability. So they from one state to another, say for a weekend or for a couple days or for a week. They want to make it easier for people here, so not to have to worry about submitting that form. Another one that's kind of interesting, I never knew this was an issue, but it's allowing a ruling allowing the joint registration for spouses under the NFA Act. So I didn't know this was an issue, but I guess it is. So basically, if you wanted that, you had to form a trust. Well, now if you want it jointly with your spouse, you don't have to form a trust now. You can simply submit the ATF form, say to 4 in this case, and you don't have to do a trust and separate it out all that way. So I think that they're saying, again, it's reducing the burden on the spouses, not having to form a trust. You can simply just submit a joint application to ATF.
And why is that most important?
What, the spouse one?
Yeah, I think it's important.
Well, it probably comes back down to if upon death or something like that, then it's set up right there.
Yeah. It's like when we tell people with RPs, you always need 2, because if you only have 1 and then the RP dies, there's a little rigmarole until you can get a new RP on. If you have an NFA item in your name and you die, just what happens to it? That's right. There's a rigmarole to figure out what to do, where to go. So this is sort of a fail-safe, kind of like a joint checking account, right? If one person dies, the other one still has full access to it. There's no worries about how the laws of succession apply. And so that's why I think this is important too, just to have your significant other, your spouse, on it. So if you pass, it goes right to her, and then, she can do what she will with it.
Absolutely.
Or vice versa.
That's an interesting one. I never knew it was a problem, but maybe someone within, maybe it was Rob, what's his name? What's the chief counsel for ATF? What's his name, Chris? Rob Leiter? Maybe this was his doing here.
It might be.
We'll see. Next one is an easy one. It's an NPRM for removing the CLEO notification under the National Firearms Act. So that's an easy one. What does the CLEO do with these? Probably same thing that they do with the multiple sale forms. They probably go in the garbage.
The circular file.
Yeah. Yes. So it's removing that requirement. So as well as a requirement, a copy of the responsible person question too, to be completed and sent to the CLEO. So all that is going to be eliminated with that. I don't think that's going to be a lot of comments on that. I don't think, but you never know. The non-gun right groups probably will comment on all these, so we'll see. An interesting one is the ruling regarding the clarifying interstate transportation of firearms under the Gun Control Act. I don't know. I don't know if everybody realizes it. I saw this is the concealed carry permits issued by states. I think the Supreme Court is going to be hearing at sometime this summer, maybe taking that into account. Should that be that is given by one state, should that be recognized by all states? And so that's going to be an interesting one. But to me, it almost comes into play here also. It could have an effect on this ruling, because here, what ATF's saying is the firearm should not be directly or readily accessible from the passenger compartment of the vehicle, of the transporting vehicle of that firearm. And it's not, and here also they're saying this should not only be limited to cars, but it should be considered for airlines, trains, and other forms of transportation. So that's kind of interesting here that they're bringing all this into play. But of course, as we know, sometimes when it comes to, if you get stopped in a state, how does that state or those local PDs look at that firearm, especially if you find it in the trunk of your car or whatever. So it's an interesting one. But as basically that's all it's mainly recognizing the fact that as long as you have it separated, that's what everybody should anyway, separated it. It's not accessible or readily accessible by someone in a passenger seat. But not just for cars, but also for trains, buses, say, airlines. So that's kind of interesting here that they brought this up. This one could have a lot of comments on it, but I also think it's going to have some play later this year when the Supreme Court gives their view on the concealed carry permit, if that can be utilized nationwide, that is written for one state, given for one state. So keep that one in mind. 2 more to go, I think. Yeah, 2 more to go. Transferring machine guns between licensees, qualified NFA licensees, that is. So basically, it's this is the one that came about when we had a lot of abuse by you all. So not everybody, put it that way, not everybody. It was a few. And anytime there's abuses by a few, what happens? There's changes in laws, regulations, anything that comes into play. Hell, even local entities somewhere could have a change. Or for me, dogs pooping on the beach, well, no dogs on the beach. So that's it. You eliminate dogs on the beach for a period of time. So it happens. So when certain people ignore the laws and regs and try to go about abusing them, then certain regulations come into play. But here, what this is going to do is going to strike the requirements that the qualified dealers include the availability of the machine guns to fill future orders and establish the need for the requested number of the machine gun. So basically, when you send this form into ATF that you need, and you have a letter from a CLEO that says they want a demonstration, they're interested in buying a firearm, what they're doing now is they're eliminating the need that the FFL has to show or establish that need for the requested number of machine guns that they want to obtain. So that's a big one. It doesn't mean that ATF still won't call that CLEO to say, hey, are you interested in receiving these machine guns? Because they probably still will, but they'll have to adjust that document that you send in to ATF NFA division for those machine guns that you want to acquire. And it's also, and here's another one part of that is that and this is utilizing the ATF Form 3 to transfer machine guns upon giving up your status as a special occupational taxpayer for NFA, and also if you go out of business. So basically here they're saying you need to complete the Form 3 for approval to transfer the machine guns and to notify ATF that you're discontinuing your NFA business. So this case will be a Form 3 transferring machine guns to another NFA taxpayer, and you're also going to say if you're going out of business or you just don't want to deal in NFA firearms anymore. It's a little bit different scenario. They want that on a Form 3. But I think we have people doing that on a Form 3 right now anyway, but it's a different I guess what they're saying is it notifies ATF at the same time that you're going out of business, but there's probably going to be a little bit more clarification on that also. Probably a letter will have to accommodate that Form 3 from the one going out of business, I'm sure. And this one's an interesting one too, still on NFA. It's the NPRM for clarifying special occupational tax payments per business. So now, if you're a dealer, importer, manufacturer, you need three SOT payments. Now they just want to make it one. So you just need one payment. So, and what's that payment going to be? You pay under the manufacturer? Do you pay the dealer? Do you pay the importer amount? So that's a good question. But it's going to basically, they want to reduce the burden on you all. So they want to basically, if you have three, you only have to pay for one in the future. And we'll see how that one goes too, because it's basically you're just like the rescinding of the NFA transfer tax. They're going to be losing money here again on a number of SOT, special occupational tax stamps that they issue to dealers in some cases. Some may have a manufacturer, some may have a dealer payment. Then now you have to have one. So probably, I'd say it'd probably be the one, it'll be the manufacturer level. If you have if you pay manufacturer deal, you have to pay at a manufacturer. So instead of paying what's that, 800, you have to, could be 1,000. So instead of like, what's that, 1,300 or something like that, you have to pay 1,000 maybe. So unless you can do the reduced amount of 500, but yeah, that's those three categories. As my mouth's getting dry, but so I wanted to go over those three. There's two more categories, but I'm not going to talk about them today. We can do that another time. But yeah, these is a time for you guys to, especially the 4473, comment on it. Make your comments there's dates on there, and it's gonna, if you're really truly have some type of a need or a feeling behind a certain part of the 4473 you think should not be changed, or it should, there's something else that needs to be changed, whatever you want, make sure you make that comment, let your voice be heard. So, because others may have the same comment you do. So at your time right now to comment on that 4473. Again, like Alexis said, if you have any questions for us in the meantime, any of these, let us know.
So, Mike, Alexis is actually setting up a webinar for all of us specific to the 34 changes or proposed changes, blah, blah, blah. So we'll be able to really drill down on those, and Alexis will talk about that, I'm sure, when we get around to her. But the two areas that you did not touch on, you can certainly touch on in June's meeting if you want to, because it'll still probably be within the request period. But again, we're going to have a webinar specific to all the changes, what it means for all of our clients. So that will be coming up soon. Thank you. Let's go to Michael down in the Outer Banks. Did you get any, were you on the links? I'm assuming that's why you're down there. And how was it?
No, just for Mother's Day. Just a couple of things, reiterating on the comment period. Anytime there's a new administration, all the interest groups start whispering in the ear of the administration, telling them how they think things should be written. So they bring those things to ATF, and ATF can say a lot of yeah, but, because they know the implications. But some of these things may be good for what an interest group says, but they may not be good for everybody else. So you know your clients the best. You got to put comments in there about if you think there's going to be things that you're going to be spending 10 minutes answering questions to clients because they're confused, anticipate those kind of things and comment. The one about the unlawful use of marijuana, that's going to be another. You're going to be spending all kinds of time trying to explain to them what's illegal use of marijuana. So point those kind of questions out and send those in on your comments. A couple other things. We talked to headquarters the other day. We're still trying to get FFL alerts out, so when there are thefts from dealers in regions, that we can put a broadcasts out to other dealers in the area to give you a heads up that, hey, there's a crew that's running around breaking into gun dealers. So they're working on a way to get those alerts out. On the 18th, we're going to have a call with ATF headquarters about updating the industry on all these different things that they're pushing out. So they'll give us a little more insight about their viewpoint on it and what they're looking for the future. I'll be visiting headquarters this week and discuss some of these things with them. And then the other thing we have is an emergency response. You know, we put together a slideshow for all of you on emergency preparedness and emergency response.
Yeah.
It's pretty comprehensive, so take a look at that for your own families. And it's mentioned in the slideshow. Ready.gov is the FEMA site. They've got all kinds of checklists and things that you can use not only for your business but for your families, particularly if you have to evacuate quickly. They've got checklists that you can keep posted in your house and useful for your family and friends. So pending any questions, that's all I've got.
So Mike, I just received the invite for the 18th as well. It's a webinar with Rob Sakata, Chrissy Carlson, and I guess maybe Robert Leiter. And what I noticed is it's addressed to industry stakeholders, I guess. And we at FFLGuard are among the very few invitees on that list. You know, I saw NSSF, a couple other names, but other than that, we have been given, in the words of Ron Burgundy, I guess, you know, we're kind of a big deal. I don't know, maybe. But that was kind of cool to see. So I'm looking forward to that webinar next Monday. And Alexis, that should give us some more grist for the mill when we have our specific webinar to these changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that as a segue, what you got for us today?
Honestly, there's just so much going on with the new regulations and proposed rulings. Please be in touch if you have questions. Don't assume, because reading regulation is a fun sport. Definitely know when things go into effect. And if you have questions about what they mean or when, please don't be shy. Shoot us a ticket. We'll be happy to talk you through all of those. But definitely be on the lookout for the webinar invite coming soon for us to sit down and say, hey, this is what it means. So, and in a little more detail than all that's here. But again, comments are huge. The ATF is interested in knowing. And again, some of the things, just like Mr. Bouchard said, they may not be what is relevant to industry. So definitely speak up. Now is the time. The comment periods are varying. They could be 30 days, they could be 60 days, or they could be 90 days. So definitely take a look at when they end so that you know you don't miss your window. Things get posted again for once comments are responded to, etc. And then there is a final implementation date. So again, even those final rules have a date of effectiveness. So again, just try to keep track. If you have questions, reach out.
Cool. Most appreciated. Before we get to Brother Bryan playing the part of Trent Yeager,
now Aaron's there.
Aaron's
they switched up again.
The much better. It doesn't matter. Either one is a better option. So, Aaron, nice of you to join us. I don't know if you have any words of wisdom, but the bar is really set low with Trent, so you can basically take a poop on your desk and you'll be just fine. What's going on out there in Kansas City?
Oh, we just had a short reminder on if you have a work comp policy in place, make sure you're completing your annual audits. We've seen this a couple times recently where people aren't completing their audits. They'll get dropped by their current carrier, and that's considered a lapse. And a lot of the preferred carriers won't pick you up until you've had coverage for a year with like a state pool to get back to a preferred carrier after a lapse. So that creates a lot of headaches and costs you money. So just make sure you're completing those audits.
That's it, bro. You literally had a blank slate. You could have said and done anything, and you come up with workers' comp.
Yep.
All right.
That's work. Insurance isn't always fun. So
just simple insurance folk. I got you. All right. Well, it's nice to have you. With that said, last but not least, in the room adjacent to me currently, my man.
Yep.
Brother Bryan, what's going on?
I'm just real quickly want to touch on the fact that, inspections are still coming hot and heavy. ATF's out and about. Like we have noticed a lot more notifications being sent by ATF in advance. We're getting clients letting us know, like, hey, ATF called and said they're going to be here in 2 weeks. So they're going to be here in a week. So we have been seeing a lot more of that these days, where you're kind of getting a heads up. Don't wait for a phone call. Although I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying it's been happening. You need to stay on top of your inventory. You need to stay on top of your inventory. And that's the big thing these days. So always be ready for an inspection, especially if it's been over a year, or really if it's been over 3 years, really be ready for an inspection because they're out and about. So review it, get your comments in, and be as specific as possible, because I've only looked at it twice now and I plan on getting up on it again tonight, and I'm going to have a lot of my own comments to put in. So we'll probably talk about it more on the next webinar, which I think, Chris, what are we looking at, like June 15th or something maybe?
Well, we're going to talk to Alexis about that, because I believe we may put off our periodic monthly webinar and replace it sometime in the next couple of weeks, or I don't know. We'll talk to Alexis, because I want to do the 34 changes coming our way seminar first. And on the 4473, Bri, I know you planned on, I think your words were getting up on top of it tonight, which good for you. I have a feeling it's going to change again. I have a feeling it's going to, what you see now is not what you're going to get.
Right.
So I always I'm not, you guys know this about me. Don't show me the pregnancy, just give me the birth. And so when it's born, that's when I'm going to really, in your words, get up on top of it and take a look at it. Until then, I'm really not, because I know how fluid they are. And another thing, two other things I want to tell people. Fronczak and I are going to 2, not 1, but 2 revocation hearings in the next month or 2. So while it is a warmer, gentler, kinder ATF, it's still ATF. You're not invulnerable. You're not an impenetrable fortress. You are vulnerable. You can be brought in, and it's still happening. That's number 1. Sorry about the forehead. I had to pick something up. Number 2 is, just a reminder to everybody on the phone, and I'm happy to see all the attendees today. I will always be your lawyer. I will always represent you. But being part of FFLGuard comes with some strings. So if you want me to come to your revocation hearing, your warning conference, etc., at no additional charge, then there's a couple things that have to fall into place. One is you have to follow our Law Plus guidelines. And I will tell you, just amongst us girls, that I have never in 28 years said, oh, you only had 89 points and not 90 points, so you're screwed, you have to pay me. I'm not that guy. That's never happened. We're all adults. I'm assuming that you're going to do what I ask, and we move in that direction. But the other really important prerequisite, I'll call it, to me coming out there for you, is that when you're having an inspection by ATF, or if ATF is on site, the rule is really clear. You have to call us. You have to call me when they're there. You can't call me. Well, you can. You can call me 6 months later and say, oh, they were inspecting, and now I have a notice of revocation. You can, but just don't be insulted when you get my bill. I have to take over at the inspection. That's the trenches. That's where the battles are won. That's where we can avoid a notice of revocation, because I can really get in there and work all the angles. So please, 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 if they step foot on premises, call us and notify us and let us help you at that point. That was my offering for the day. It was a full, robust hour of stuff. Alexis, when you have a date for our 34 things that are a changing seminar, I'm sure you'll put it out there.
I absolutely will. Yes, sir.
And Bryan, I know that you will be posting this when we are done. And that being said, I appreciate all. There's a lot of people today. Everyone showing up. We will speak with you again soon, and have a wonderful remainder of the week. See ya.